In the vast, uncharted expanse of the cosmos, where stars whispered secrets to one another and galaxies danced in eternal rhythm, a lone human vessel pierced the veil of the unknown. Eli Thompson, a brilliant astrophysicist from Earth, had always dreamed of unraveling the universe's mysteries. His ship, the Odyssey, was a marvel of human ingenuity, sleek, powered by fusion drives that hummed like a heartbeat, but it was no match for the ethereal force that ensnared it one fateful night. Pulled into the gravitational embrace of a shimmering nebula, Eli found himself crashing onto a world that defied every law of physics he knew. The planet, Zerathia, was a jewel of impossible beauty, towering spires of crystal that sang in the wind, rivers of liquid light flowing through valleys of iridescent flora, and skies painted with auroras that pulsed like living breath. As Eli staggered from the wreckage, his suit's alarms blaring warnings of alien atmospheres, he was met not by hostility, but by a vision that stole his breath. She emerged from the mist like a goddess stepping out of myth, Lyra, the supreme being of Zerathia, her hair cascaded like freshly fallen snow, framing a face of porcelain skin that glowed with an inner luminescence. Small, pointed ears peeked through her locks, delicate as elven whispers, adding an exotic allure that made her seem both ancient and eternally youthful. She wore a gown that hugged her curvaceous form, a fabric that shifted colors with her movements, now deep sapphire, now molten gold, revealing just enough to ignite the imagination, elegant yet undeniably seductive. Her eyes, vast pools of violet, held the wisdom of eons, but there was a spark of curiosity in them, hunger for something new. You trespass in the realm of the divine, Lyra's voice echoed, not through air, but directly into Eli's mind, a melodic symphony that sent shivers down his spine. She floated above the ground, her presence commanding yet intoxicating, like a forbidden fruit dangling just out of reach. Eli, dazed but defiant, straightened his posture. Humans, after all, were not ones to bow easily. "I didn't mean to crash your party," he quipped, his voice steady despite the pounding of his heart. "But if you're the welcoming committee, I have to say, Earth's got nothing on this." Lyra tilted her head, intrigued by this mortal's audacity. In Zerathia, her kind, the Auralians, ruled as gods, their advanced technology woven into the fabric of reality itself. They could bend space, manipulate time, and grant boons to lesser beings as tests of character. But humans? They were primitives, curiosities from a backwater planet, scarcely worth notice. Yet here was Eli, with his rugged features, tousled dark hair, and eyes that burned with unquenchable fire, a fire that stirred something deep within her, a flicker of desire she hadn't felt in centuries. With a wave of her hand, invisible bonds wrapped around Eli, lifting him effortlessly into the air. "You amuse me, human," she purred, her voice now laced with a sultry undertone that made his pulse quicken. "I could obliterate you with a thought, but instead, I offer you a gift, 3 wishes. Speak them wisely, for they shall reveal your soul's true nature." Eli's mind raced. Wishes. This was straight out of fairy tales, but twisted through the lens of sci-fi nightmares. He could ask for wealth, power, immortality, but no, he was a scientist, a man driven by knowledge, not greed, and in her eyes, he saw not just a goddess, but a being lonely in her perfection, craving connection. As they floated toward her crystalline palace, the air thick with the scent of blooming nebulae flowers that released pheromones designed to enthrall, Eli felt an unexpected pull toward her. Lyra's form moved with graceful fluidity, her curves accentuated by the play of light, inviting thoughts he tried to push aside. "Why me?" he asked, his voice dropping to a husky whisper as they entered a chamber bathed in soft, pulsating glows. She turned to him, her lips curving into a smile that promised both danger and delight. "Because you crashed into my world, Eli Thompson, and now, I want to see if you can handle crashing into mine." The palace was a labyrinth of wonders, halls where gravity inverted at will, rooms that shifted to reflect one's deepest desires. Lyra led him to a grand throne room, where holographic stars swirled overhead like a private galaxy. She settled onto her throne, her gown parting slightly to reveal the smooth expanse of her thigh, a deliberate tease that made Eli's breath hitch. "Your first wish," she commanded, her violet eyes locking onto his, probing his thoughts with gentle telepathic tendrils. Eli paused, his mind whirling. He could sense her anticipation, her expectation of something mundane, riches, perhaps, or escape. But humans were clever, resourceful, the underdogs who always found a way. "I wish," he said slowly, his gaze never leaving hers, "for complete knowledge of all the technology your civilization possesses." The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. Lyra's eyes widened, her composed facade cracking for the first time. Shock rippled through her ethereal form, her skin flushing a faint pink, a rare display of vulnerability. This wasn't a wish for personal gain, it was a strategic masterstroke. With that knowledge, humanity could leapfrog eons ahead, conquering the stars, perhaps even surpassing the Auralians. She had offered the wishes as a game, a way to toy with this intriguing mortal, but now the tables were turning. You dare?" she whispered, her voice trembling with a mix of fury and fascination. Eli stepped closer, emboldened by her reaction. "Knowledge is power, Lyra, and sharing it might just bring our worlds together." Her heart, or whatever equivalent beat within her, raced. This human wasn't just surviving, he was challenging her divinity, and in that challenge, she felt alive, as the knowledge began to flood his mind. Courtesy of her unwilling grant, visions of hyperdrives, quantum shields, and reality-warping devices assaulted him. But amid the torrent, their eyes met again, and something electric passed between them, a spark of forbidden attraction that promised chaos and passion in equal measure. The chamber seemed to close in around them, the air charged with unspoken tension. Lyra rose from her throne, her body inches from his, her scent enveloping him like a warm embrace. "You have stunned me, human," she admitted, her fingers brushing his cheek, sending jolts of energy through his skin. "But this is only the beginning. What will you do with such power?" Eli smiled, his hand gently covering hers, feeling the softness beneath her godlike aura. "Maybe I'll use it to understand you better." Her laughter echoed, light and melodic, but laced with desire. In that moment, the line between captor and captive blurred, and the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. As the knowledge settled into Eli's consciousness, transforming him from a mere scientist into a vessel of cosmic secrets, Lyra found herself drawn inexorably closer. She had granted wishes to countless beings across the galaxies, but none had ever turned the gift against her so ingeniously. It was infuriating, exhilarating, arousing. Even, her people viewed emotions as weaknesses, but this human ignited them like a supernova. "Your second wish?" she prompted, her voice breathy, as if the words were a caress. Eli hesitated, not out of fear, but because the proximity to her was intoxicating. Her form, so perfectly sculpted, radiated a warmth that defied the cold vacuum of space. "Not yet," he murmured, his fingers tracing the edge of her gown. "Tell me about Zerathia first, about you," she obliged, her tales weaving through the night, stories of ancient wars among the stars, of loves lost to the void. As she spoke, their bodies drifted closer, the gravitational pull between them stronger than any black hole. Hours blurred into what felt like eternity in the timeless palace. Lyra's initial shock gave way to admiration, her violet eyes softening as she watched Eli absorb the influx of data. He sketched diagrams in the air with holographic projections, his excitement palpable. "This could end famines on Earth, cure diseases, unite us all," he said, his passion infectious. She leaned in, her lips brushing his ear. "And what of us? What if this knowledge binds our fates?" The question hung heavy, laden with possibility. Eli turned to face her fully, his hands finding her waist, pulling her gently against him. Her body yielded, soft and inviting, her small elven ears twitching with anticipation. In that embrace, the universe narrowed to just the two of them, a human and a goddess, on the precipice of something profound. As their lips met in a tentative kiss, fireworks of energy exploded around them, the palace responding to her unspoken desires. But even as passion ignited, Eli's mind raced with the implications of his wish. The technology he now held could indeed elevate humanity to godhood, but at what cost? Lyra pulled back slightly, her breath ragged. "You have 2 wishes left, Eli. Choose wisely, for I find myself invested in your choices." He nodded, his thumb caressing her cheek. "Then let's see where this takes us." The night deepened, their conversation turning intimate, vulnerabilities shared under the holographic stars. Lyra confessed the loneliness of immortality, the burden of ruling a perfect world. Eli spoke of Earth's chaos, its beauty and imperfection. Their hands explored tentatively, discovering the thrill of cross-species connection, her skin humming with energy that made his nerves sing. As dawn's light filtered through the crystal walls, simulated, of course, in this eternal realm, Eli felt the weight of his new knowledge. It was a weapon, a tool, a bridge, and Lyra, once aloof, now gazed at him with a mixture of awe and longing. The game of wishes had evolved into something far more dangerous: love across the stars. As the simulated dawn painted the crystal walls with hues of rose and amber, Eli and Lyra remained entwined in the throne room's embrace, the holographic stars fading into a soft, ambient glow that mimicked the first light of a new world. The air between them hummed with unspoken promises, the residue of their kiss lingering like a charged particle field. Lyra's fingers traced lazy patterns along Eli's arm, her touch sending subtle waves of energy that danced across his skin, awakening sensations he hadn't known existed. It was as if her very essence was attuned to his nervous system, amplifying every brush, every whisper of contact into something profoundly intimate. She pulled back just enough to study his face, her violet eyes darkening with a storm of emotions, curiosity warring with desire, power clashing against vulnerability. "You've claimed my knowledge, Ili," she murmured, her voice a silken thread that wrapped around his senses. "But what if I claim something from you in return?" The question hung heavy, laced with a teasing edge that made his heart stutter. In the vastness of Zerathia, where she reigned supreme, this human had pierced her armor with a single, brilliant wish. Now, the game shifted. She wanted to explore him, to unravel the enigma of his mortality. His passion, Ili's breath caught as she guided him toward a secluded alcove off the throne room, a space that materialized at her whim, walls of translucent energy that shimmered like water, enclosing them in privacy while allowing glimpses of the nebula beyond. The floor beneath them softened into a plush expanse, warm and inviting, like the finest silk from forgotten Earth legends. "Show me," she whispered, her hands sliding under his suit's fabric, deftly unzipping the environmental layer with a curiosity that bordered on reverence. Her small, pointed ears flushed a delicate pink, a telltale sign of her arousal in this alien physiology, as she revealed the contours of his chest, tracing the lines of muscle earned from years of rigorous training for space missions. The suspense built like the slow acceleration of a starship entering warp, every moment stretched taut with anticipation. Ili hesitated for a fraction of a second, his mind flashing to the implications. This was no ordinary encounter. She was a goddess, her body a masterpiece of evolutionary perfection, designed for pleasures beyond human comprehension. Yet, in her eyes, he saw not dominance, but a plea for equality, a desire to be touched as an equal rather than worshipped from afar. He reached for her, his fingers grazing the edge of her gown, feeling the material respond to his intent, parting like mist to expose the elegant curve of her shoulder, the swell of her breast. Her skin was impossibly smooth, warm like sun-kissed marble, and as he leaned in, their lips met again, this time with a hunger that ignited the air around them. Lyra's gasp was music to his ears, a soft, melodic sound that echoed through the alcove. She pressed against him, her curvaceous form molding to his with a fluidity that defied gravity, her hair cascading over them like a veil of snow. The erotic tension escalated as her telepathic tendrils brushed his thoughts, sharing fragments of her own desires, visions of eternal nights spent in exploration, of bodies intertwining in zero-gravity dances. Humans are so tactile, she breathed against his neck, her lips grazing his pulse point, sending electric shivers down his spine. Ili's hands wandered lower, cupping her waist, feeling the subtle hum of her inner energy core, a source of power that now pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. But beneath the rising passion, a thread of suspense wove through their connection. What if this intimacy altered the wishes? What if her people discovered this forbidden liaison? Zerathia's laws were ancient, forbidding gods from entangling with mortals, yet here she was, defying them for him. Ili pulled her closer, his mouth exploring the sensitive tip of her elven ear, eliciting a low moan that vibrated through both of them. "You're risking everything," he whispered, his voice husky with concern and desire. She smiled against his skin, her fingers deftly removing the last barriers of his clothing, exposing him to the cool, charged air. "Risk is what makes existence thrilling. Ili, and you make me feel alive." The alcove's lights dimmed at her unspoken command, casting shadows that played across their forms like lovers' secrets. Lyra's gown dissolved entirely, a cascade of shimmering particles that left her bare, her body a vision of ethereal beauty, slender yet voluptuous, her white skin glowing faintly, inviting his gaze and touch. She guided his hands to her, teaching him the nuances of her anatomy, where pressure points amplified pleasure tenfold, where a gentle stroke could summon waves of ecstasy. The erotic dance unfolded slowly, suspensefully, each caress building toward an inevitable crescendo, but drawn out to savor the unknown. Ili marveled at her responses, how her body arched under his exploration, her violet eyes fluttering shut as she surrendered to sensations long denied. In turn, she explored him with a scientist's precision and a lover's fervor, her fingers tracing paths that ignited fires within him, her lips following suit in a trail of kisses that left him breathless. The air grew thick with their mingled scents, his earthy, human musk blending with her floral, cosmic aroma, creating an intoxicating blend that heightened every sense. What if your second wish changes everything? She teased, her hand sliding lower, gripping him with a gentle firmness that made him groan. The question added a layer of erotic suspense, reminding them both of the power imbalance, the game still in play. He flipped their positions with a sudden, confident move, pinning her gently against the soft floor, his body hovering over hers. Humans, after all, were adaptable, bold, the heroes of their own stories. Lyra's laughter bubbled up, delighted and surprised, her legs wrapping around him in invitation. "Show me your ingenuity here, too," she challenged, her voice a sultry purr that sent his blood racing. As they moved together, the rhythm building like a symphony of stars colliding, the suspense deepened. What revelations would come from this union? Would her divine essence merge with his mortal one, creating something new, something unstoppable? Their connection transcended the physical, telepathic whispers, shared fantasies, memories flashing between them, Ellie's childhood dreams of the stars, Lyra's eons of solitary rule. Each thrust, each sigh, wove them tighter, the erotic intensity mounting until the alcove trembled with their energy. But even in the throes, a subtle tension lingered, the unspoken third wish, the potential for betrayal or salvation. Lyra's nails dug into his back, not painfully, but possessively, as waves of pleasure crashed over her, her body glowing brighter with each peak. Time lost meaning in that suspended moment, their bodies slick with effort, hearts pounding in unison. Ellie whispered her name like a prayer, feeling her tighten around him, drawing him deeper into her world. The suspense of what lay beyond this intimacy, alliance or conflict, only fueled their passion, making every touch more electric, every glance more profound. As they finally stilled, entwined and spent, the alcove's walls pulsed with a soft afterglow, mirroring their satisfaction. Lyra nestled against his chest, her hair fanning out like a halo, her small ears brushing his skin. "You've awakened something in me, Illy," she confessed, her voice laced with wonder and a hint of fear. "But the wishes remain. What comes next?" He held her close, the erotic haze giving way to a deeper bond, yet the air crackled with anticipation for the twists yet to unfold. The simulated day progressed, but they lingered in the alcove, exploring further with lazy touches and murmured conversations. Lyra shared secrets of Zerathia's hidden pleasures, fruits that enhanced senses, mists that induced euphoria, but always with that undercurrent of suspense, as if each revelation brought them closer to a precipice. Illy, empowered by his newfound knowledge, reciprocated with human innovations, describing Earth's arts of love, which intrigued her endlessly. Their second entanglement came unexpectedly, sparked by a playful debate over cosmic philosophies. She pinned him this time, her strength subtle but overwhelming, riding the waves of their connection with a goddess's grace. The erotic suspense built anew, her movements deliberate, teasing, drawing out his responses until he begged for release. In those moments, he felt like the conqueror, taming the divine with sheer human will. Yet, as passion ebbed once more, a distant hum echoed through the palace, a signal, perhaps, from her realm's guardians. Lyra tensed slightly, her eyes flickering with concern. "We must be cautious," she whispered, but her hand remained on his, unwilling to let go. The erotic idol held, but the shadows of greater stakes loomed, promising that their story was far from over. The distant hum grew insistent, like the low growl of an approaching storm across Zerathia's crystalline horizons, pulling Lyra from the warmth of Ellie's embrace with a start. She sat up abruptly, her glowing skin dimming slightly as if drawing energy inward for defense, her small pointed ears perking toward the sound. "That's the Sentinel call," she whispered, her voice shifting from the soft purr of lovers to the sharp edge of a commander. Illy felt the shift too, the idyllic bubble of their alcove shattering as reality intruded, his newly acquired knowledge flashing warnings in his mind. Sentinels were the guardians of Zerathia, automated enforcers woven from the same quantum fabric as the planet itself, programmed to protect the divine order from anomalies like him. He rose beside her, his body still humming from their shared passions, but adrenaline now coursed through him like rocket fuel. "What do they want?" he asked, his hand instinctively reaching for hers, squeezing it in a gesture that blended human protectiveness with the bold ingenuity that had already upended her world. Lyra's violet eyes met his, a storm brewing within them, fear, defiance, and something deeper, a spark of thrill at the chaos this mortal had unleashed. "They sense the imbalance, your wish. It's rippling through our systems, alerting the core. If they deem you a threat, they'll erase you from existence." Her words hung dramatic and heavy, the air thickening with tension as the hum evolved into a rhythmic pulse, vibrating the alcove's walls like a heartbeat racing toward catastrophe. Without another word, she summoned her gown back into being, the fabric materializing in a swirl of light that clung to her curves with renewed elegance, though her flushed cheeks betrayed the intimacy they'd just shared. Eli dressed quickly, his mind racing through the torrent of Auralian tech he'd absorbed, deflector shields, phase shifts, neural overrides. Humans might be outmatched in raw power, but they excelled in adaptation, turning the tide with sheer cleverness. Then we faced them together, he declared, his voice steady, igniting a fire in her that made her pause, her lips parting in surprise. In all her eons, no one had ever stood with her against the Sentinels. They were her tools, her shadows. But this human, with his mortal fragility, offered alliance, and it stirred a curious thrill in her chest. What if mortality held the key to true power? The palace trembled as the Sentinels approached, their forms manifesting in the throne room beyond the alcove, towering constructs of liquid metal and energy, faceless yet emanating an aura of judgment. Lyra led Eli out, her hand slipping from his as protocol demanded, but the lingering warmth fueled his resolve. The room had transformed in their absence, the holographic stars now swirling chaotically, reflecting the disruption his wish had caused. 3 Sentinels hovered in a triangular formation, their surfaces rippling with code that Eli could now decipher. Anomaly detected, knowledge breach, elimination protocol initiating. Stand down, Lyra commanded, her voice booming with divine authority, echoing off the crystals like thunder. But the Sentinels hesitated only briefly, their central node pulsing red, a sign of override from the planetary core, the ancient AI that governed Zerathia's equilibrium. One extended a tendril of energy toward Eli, scanning him with invasive precision, probing his mind for the stolen secrets. Pain lanced through his skull, dramatic and unrelenting, as if his brain were being dissected layer by layer. He gritted his teeth, drawing on human resilience, the kind that had propelled his species from caves to the cosmos. Not today, he muttered, his fingers flying to a nearby control panel that materialized at his thought, thanks to the knowledge she'd granted. In a thrilling surge of action, Eli hacked into the panel's interface, his inputs a blur of commands that rewrote the Sentinels' protocols on the fly. The room crackled with energy, sparks flying as the Guardians convulsed, their forms glitching between solid and ethereal. Lyra watched in wide-eyed astonishment, her heart pounding, not just from fear, but from the curious spectacle of a human wielding her people's tech like a weapon forged in his own image. How? She breathed, stepping closer as the first Sentinel shattered into pixels, dissolving into harmless light. But the drama escalated, the remaining 2 adapted, their defenses hardening, launching counterattacks, bolts of plasma that singed the air, forcing Eli to dodge with acrobatic grace honed from zero-G simulations back on Earth. The climax built like a supernova on the verge of explosion, the throne room becoming a battlefield of light and shadow. Eli grabbed Lyra's arm, pulling her behind a crystalline pillar as a blast shattered the floor nearby, sending shards flying like deadly confetti. "Your tech has weaknesses," he shouted over his eyes alight with the thrill of discovery. "Quantum entanglement loops, they're vulnerable to recursive feedback." She nodded, her mind linking with his in a telepathic burst, sharing her own insights to amplify his plan. Together, they moved as one. A surprising fusion of divine grace and human grit, Lyra weaving illusions to distract the Sentinels, Eli inputting the fatal code that turned their power against themselves. One Sentinel lunged, its tendril wrapping around Eli's leg, yanking him into the air with bone-jarring force. The pain was excruciating, but he twisted midair, using the momentum to swing toward the control panel, his free hand slamming in the final sequence. A high-pitched whine filled the room, building to a deafening crescendo as the Guardians overloaded, their cores fracturing in a spectacular display of fireworks, colors exploding across the spectrum, illuminating Lyra's face in hues of awe and relief. The last Sentinel imploded with a dramatic whoosh, sucking in air before vanishing, leaving only echoes of its presence. Panting, Eli dropped to the ground, his leg throbbing but intact. Lyra rushed to him, her hands glowing with healing energy that soothed the wound instantly, her touch tender amid the wreckage. "You destroyed them," she whispered, her voice laced with thrilling wonder, her violet eyes searching his for answers. But curiosity burned brighter now. What else could this human achieve with her gifts? The surprise hit her like a comet. In saving himself, he'd saved her from the core's judgment, rewriting not just code, but fate itself. No one has ever challenged the Sentinels and won, she said, helping him stand, their bodies close once more, the adrenaline morphing into a different kind of heat. As the palace stabilized, repairs initiating automatically, Eli pulled her into a fierce embrace, his lips claiming hers in a kiss born of victory's fire. It was passionate, dramatic, sealing their bond amid the ruins, but even in this climax, a thrilling undercurrent persisted. The core might send more, or worse, alert the council of elders scattered across the stars. Your second wish, Lyra prompted breathlessly, pulling back just enough to meet his gaze, her curiosity piqued. What will it be now, after this? Eli smiled, a mischievous glint in his eye that promised more surprises. Something to ensure we face whatever comes next together. The words hung tantalizingly, the air electric with possibility. They moved to a balcony overlooking Zerathia's vast landscapes, the nebula swirling below like a living canvas, as he contemplated his next move. The battle had revealed layers to her world, hidden vulnerabilities in the tech, unspoken rebellions among lesser Auralians, and it fueled his human drive to innovate, to protect what was growing between them. In the quiet aftermath, Lyra shared a secret that added a curious twist. The Sentinels weren't just guardians, they were remnants of an ancient war, programmed by her ancestors to prevent the very intermingling she now craved. If the council learns of us, she trailed off, her hand tracing his jaw, the gesture both loving and laden with drama. Eli nodded, his mind already formulating defenses, drawing on Earth's history of underdog triumphs, Thermopylae, the moon landing. Now this cosmic standoff, the thrilling escape from annihilation had bonded them deeper, her admiration for his heroism blooming into something profound. As they stood there, watching the skies for signs of pursuit, a distant shimmer caught their eye, a probe, perhaps, or an ally. The surprise element lingered, keeping the narrative taut, their hearts racing not just from the fight, but from the unknown horizons ahead. Yet, in this moment of respite, Eli voiced his second wish, his words dropping like a bombshell. I wish for the ability to share this knowledge with all of humanity, instantaneously. Lyra's eyes widened in shock, the implications cascading through her mind, Earth elevated to galactic status overnight, her people facing equals rather than inferiors. It was dramatic, a climax of ambition that thrilled her to her core, curiosity about the fallout igniting like stars being born. You would risk war for progress? She asked, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and excitement. He pulled her close, the wind whipping her white hair around them. Not war, alliance, starting with us. The kiss that followed was electric, surprising in its intensity, as if sealing a pact that could reshape the universe. But beneath it all, the thrill of impending conflict loomed, curious questions swirling. Would humanity rise responsibly? Would her council strike back? The answers dangled just out of reach, propelling their story forward on waves of drama and surprise. As night fell once more, simulated stars rekindling above, they retreated inside, plans forming in hushed tones. Eli's ingenuity had turned the tide again, proving humans as saviors in the grand cosmic tale. Lyra, once solitary, now felt the pull of partnership, her body pressing against his in silent affirmation. The climax had passed, but its echoes promised more thrills, more curiosities unveiled in the chapters yet to come. As the simulated stars twinkled back to life overhead, casting a romantic veil over the palace's restored grandeur, Eli and Lyra slipped back into the throne room, their footsteps echoing softly against the now-mended crystals. The air still carried the faint ozone tang of the Sentinel battle, a reminder of how close they'd come to oblivion, but it only served to draw them nearer. Her arm looped through his in a gesture that felt both protective and possessive. Plans bubbled between them in low murmurs, defenses to fortify, alliances to forge, but beneath the strategy lurked a deeper current, the magnetic pull that had transformed a captive and a goddess into something indefinable, something dangerously real. Lyra's white hair brushed his shoulder as she leaned in, her violet eyes gleaming with a mix of resolve and that newfound vulnerability, making Eli's chest tighten with an emotion he hadn't anticipated, a fierce need to shield her from the storm his wishes were brewing. They settled onto a low divan that materialized at her thought, its cushions conforming perfectly to their forms like a lover's embrace. The council will sense the disturbance soon, she said, her voice a dramatic whisper that heightened the stakes, as if the very walls were listening. They're scattered across the galaxies, ancient beings like me, but bound by codes older than stars. Your second wish, sharing our tech with all humanity, it's like igniting a beacon. They'll see it as blasphemy, an invasion, Eli nodded, his hand covering hers, feeling the subtle pulse of her energy syncing with his heartbeat. But drama escalated in his mind. What if this elevated humanity too quickly? Earth wasn't ready for godlike power, wars, greed. The chaos of free will amplified a millionfold. We'll guide them, he replied, trying to sound confident, though a knot of doubt twisted in his gut. Humans learn fast, especially when the alternative is extinction. Just then, a holographic alert shimmered into existence before them, a swirling orb of light that pulsed urgently. Lyra's face paled, or as much as her luminous skin could, her small pointed ears flattening slightly in alarm. "It's from the core," she breathed, waving a hand to activate it. The orb expanded into a projection of an imposing figure, an Auralian elder, his form ethereal and stern, with hair like flowing mercury and eyes that burned like twin suns. "Lyra, Supreme of Zerathia," the elder intoned, his voice booming with dramatic gravity, echoing through the room like Judgment Day. "Anomalies detected. Knowledge dissemination initiated to primitive sector." "Explain." The projection's gaze seemed to pierce straight through to Eli, who shifted uncomfortably on the divan, suddenly aware of how out of place he looked, a scruffy human in a torn spacesuit amid divine opulence. Lyra stood tall, her gown shimmering defiantly, but Eli caught the slight tremble in her fingers as she replied. "Elder Vexar, this is no anomaly, it's evolution. The human has proven worthy." The elder's holographic brow furrowed, heightening the drama as static crackled across the feed, signaling interference from vast distances. "Immortal, you jest. The council convenes. Prepare for audit." The projection vanished with a pop, leaving silence that stretched taut like a bowstring. Lyra turned to Eli, her expression a whirlwind, fear, defiance, and a spark of rebellious excitement. "An audit means they'll descend here, probe every secret. If they discover our connection..." She trailed off, her cheeks flushing that delicate pink again, an awkward reminder of their earlier intimacies now clashing with impending doom. Eli rose, pulling her into his arms, but the moment turned comically awkward as his foot caught on the divan's edge, nearly toppling them both. He steadied them with a chuckle, diffusing the tension. "Great. Intergalactic in-laws crashing the party. Should I bake cookies or arm the lasers?" Lyra blinked, her violet eyes widening in confusion before a soft laugh escaped her, a rare, melodic sound that lightened the air. "Cookies? Your human customs are baffling, but lasers, we might need those." The humor lingered, a brief respite, but it only amplified the drama. Here they were, lovers from different worlds, joking amid cosmic crisis. Eli's mind raced, drawing on the tech knowledge to envision defenses, shield arrays, cloaking fields, but the awkwardness deepened as he realized how exposed they were. What if they scan my mind? They'll see everything we've shared. Her hands framed his face, her touch electric, but the intimacy felt charged with new stakes. Then we hide it or fight. Drama built as another alert chimed. This one from Eli's implanted comms, his ship's AI, somehow linking through the knowledge transfer. "Captain, anomalous signals inbound. Multiple vessels approaching Zerathia. Ida, ours." Eli's eyes met Lyra's, the thrill of impending confrontation mixing with a humorous twist as he quipped, "Looks like the family's early. Hope they don't mind the mess from the Sentinels." She smirked, but her grip tightened, heightening the emotional whirlwind. They moved to a strategy chamber, walls unfolding into tactical displays that mapped incoming threats, sleek Auralian cruisers slicing through hyperspace, their hulls glowing with ominous energy. As they plotted, awkward situations piled on like comedic cosmic mishaps. Lyra attempted to interface Eli with a neural enhancer to boost his planning, but the device, tuned for Auralian physiology, misfired, flooding his senses with her residual emotions, waves of desire crashing over him at the worst moment. He blushed furiously, stammering, Lyra, is this thing supposed to make me feel everything you're feeling?" She froze, her own cheeks blooming pink, realizing the link had backfired into a two-way street. "It's not meant for humans. Apologies, I didn't anticipate the intensity." They shared an awkward laugh, the humor cutting through the drama like a laser through fog, but it only deepened their bond, turning vulnerability into strength, heightening the stakes. The displays showed the Council fleet decelerating, their weapons charging subtly, a show of force masked as protocol. "They'll demand your surrender," Lyra said, her voice dramatic and laced with urgency. Eli, ever the human hero, grinned despite the odds. "Surrender? That's not in my vocabulary. Besides, I've got a goddess on my side." But awkwardness struck again when a subroutine from his wish activated unexpectedly. broadcasting a snippet of Earth's history to the palace systems, old holovids of human romances, complete with cheesy lines and dramatic kisses. The chamber filled with projections of couples declaring eternal love amid alien landscapes, mirroring their own situation in hilariously over-the-top fashion. Lyra stared, bemused. Is this how humans court? With dramatic monologues and improbable escapes, Eli groaned, face-palming as he shut it down. Not exactly. Blame the knowledge dump, it's got a mind of its own. The light humor eased the tension, but drama surged back as the first council ship hailed them, a voice demanding entry. We comply, or we resist, Lyra whispered, her body pressing close, the air thick with anticipation. They chose resistance, Eli reprogramming defenses with frantic inputs, his fingers flying over controls while Lyra channeled energy to amplify them. Awkward hilarity ensued when a miscalibrated shield bubble encased them in a temporary force field, trapping them inches apart, faces nearly touching. Well, this is cozy, Eli quipped, his breath mingling with hers. She rolled her eyes, but smiled. Focus, human, or we'll be cozy in a council prison. The fleet arrived, ships encircling Zerathia like predators, heightening the drama to a fever pitch. Beams lanced out, testing shields, rocking the palace. Eli and Lyra worked in tandem, her grace complementing his ingenuity. But awkward moments kept injecting humor, a power surge making her gown glitch transparent for a split second, eliciting a flustered eyes up here. From her, met with his sheepish grin, can't help it, you're distracting. Yet, these lapses only fueled their determination, turning potential disaster into a testament to their unlikely partnership. As explosions bloomed in the skies, dramatic and mesmerizing, Eli unveiled a surprise countermeasure, using the shared knowledge to hack the lead ship systems, broadcasting a looped message of peace laced with human wit, quotes from Earth's philosophers mixed with memes. The council paused, confused by the influx of why did the chicken cross the galaxy, riddles disrupting their comms. Lyra burst into laughter amid the chaos. Your species is insane, but it bought time, heightening the suspense as negotiations flickered to life. In the eye of the storm, they stole a moment, lips meeting in a kiss that blended drama, awkward passion, and defiant humor. If we survive this, Eli murmured, remind me to wish for a vacation. Lyra's eyes sparkled. Deal, but first, let's show them what a human goddess team can do. The battle raged on, awkward mishaps weaving through the high-stakes drama, each one underscoring humanity's charm, imperfect, humorous, yet unyieldingly heroic. The council's assault intensified, beams carving furrows in Zerathia's surface, but Eli's innovations held cloaked drones launching decoys, energy webs ensnaring attackers. Awkwardness peaked when a feedback loop from a captured ship flooded the palace with Auralian love ballads, syrupy tunes clashing hilariously with the explosions. Romantic timing, Eli deadpanned, dodging debris. Lyra shook her head, amused despite the peril. Your fault, your wish stirred everything up. Drama crested as Elder Vexar beamed down personally, materializing in the throne room with a retinue of guardians. Surrender the mortal, Lyra, or face exile. The air crackled with tension, Eli stepping forward boldly. She's not alone anymore. Vexar's eyes narrowed, but a glitch from Eli's hacks made the Elder's holographic enhancements flicker comically, his stern face morphing into cartoonish distortions. The Guardians stifled laughs, diffusing the standoff momentarily. Seizing the chaos, Lyra declared. He stays, and humanity rises with or without your blessing. The words hung dramatic, the room poised on a knife's edge. Eli whispered a quick joke to ease her nerves. If they exile us, at least we'll have the universe as our honeymoon suite. Her soft chuckle bolstered them both, turning awkward alliance into unbreakable resolve. As reinforcements arrived, human signals pinging from afar. Drawn by the knowledge broadcast, the drama evolved into a galactic showdown, peppered with humor that highlighted human resilience. Lyra and Eli stood united, ready for whatever awkward, thrilling twists fate hurled next. As Elder Vexar's holographic retinue flickered with distortions from Eli's clever hacks, the throne room hung in a precarious balance, the air thick with the scent of ionized energy and the distant rumble of orbiting ships. Lyra's declaration echoed still, a bold challenge that sent ripples through the council's formation, but Vexar merely inclined his head, his mercury-like hair shifting in calculated waves. Bold words, supreme, but the audit begins now, stand aside. The Guardians advanced, their forms shimmering with intent, yet Eli's reprogrammed defenses hummed to life, erecting barriers that held them at bay for the moment. Lyra's hand found Eli's, squeezing with an urgency that conveyed more than words. They needed time, a respite to consolidate their strength. "We retreat," whispered, her violet eyes locking onto his with a fierce intensity that stirred the embers of their earlier connections. "To the inner sanctum. There, we can regroup." With a swift gesture, she activated a hidden portal, a swirl of light that enveloped them, whisking them away from the encroaching guardians into the heart of the palace, a secluded chamber bathed in soft, pulsating luminescence, walls adorned with living vines that whispered secrets of ancient Zerathian lore. The door sealed behind them with a resonant click, muting the chaos outside to a distant thrum. Eli exhaled sharply, adrenaline still coursing through him, but here, in this intimate haven, the drama of the confrontation gave way to a more personal tension. Lyra turned to him, her curvaceous form silhouetted against the glowing flora, her gown clinging in ways that accentuated her ethereal beauty. "We have moments, perhaps hours, before they breach," she said, her voice low and laced with a vulnerability that made his heart ache. "Your wishes have set this in motion, Ili, but in this storm, I find solace in you." He stepped closer, drawn by the magnetic pull that had defined their bond from the start, his hands gently cupping her face, thumbs brushing her porcelain skin. The awkward humor of the battle faded, replaced by a deeper, more profound connection, one that promised escape from the encroaching peril. "Let's make the most of it," he murmured, his lips finding hers in a kiss that started tender but deepened with the weight of their shared defiance. Lyra responded with equal fervor, her small pointed ears twitching as she melted into him, her body pressing close, seeking the warmth and reassurance only he could provide. In this sanctum, away from prying eyes, their embrace evolved into something more intimate, a celebration of their alliance amid the galaxy's turmoil. The vines around them seemed to respond to her emotions, blooming with fragrant flowers that released a subtle mist, enhancing senses and easing inhibitions, a natural enhancer from Zerathia's flora, designed for moments of deep connection. Eli's fingers traced the elegant lines of her back, feeling the subtle hum of her energy beneath the fabric, as she guided him to a plush alcove nestled in the chamber's core, cushions forming around them like a nest of stars. Their clothing dissolved under mutual touches, her gown shimmering away in particles of light, his suit yielding to her deft hands, revealing forms that complemented each other in ways that transcended species. Lyra's white hair cascaded over her shoulders, framing her glowing skin, while Eli's human strength and tenderness offered a contrast that thrilled her. They explored each other with a gentle urgency, hands wandering over familiar yet ever-new territories, eliciting soft sighs and whispers that filled the air. The mist amplified every sensation, turning caresses into waves of warmth that built slowly, deliberately, like the crescendo of a symphony written in the stars. Lyra arched under his attentions, her violet eyes half-lidded in bliss, murmuring his name like a prayer, while Eli lost himself in the softness of her curves, the way her body responded to his every move with a grace that was both divine and inviting. Their union was a dance of passion, bodies moving in harmony, each moment drawing them closer, forging a bond that felt unbreakable. Sensations peaked in shared rhythms, waves of pleasure washing over them, leaving them breathless and entwined, hearts beating as one. In the afterglow, they lay together, her head on his chest, listening to the steady thrum of his human heartbeat, a sound she found endlessly fascinating, a reminder of his mortality that made their time together all the more precious. "This, us, it's what gives me strength to face them," she confessed softly, her fingers tracing idle patterns on his skin. Eli held her tighter, planting a kiss on her forehead, the intimacy rekindling a spark even as the distant alarms began to intrude once more. But in this stolen interlude, they found renewal, a private victory amid the larger war. As the mist dissipated, clarity returned, and they rose, redressing with lingering touches that promised more to come. Lyra activated a holographic display in the sanctum, pulling up schematics of the palace defenses, her mind already shifting back to strategy, though her cheeks still held a faint flush. "Your second wish is propagating," she noted, pointing to signals beaming toward Earth. "Humanity awakens to our secrets, but the Council won't yield easily." Eli nodded, his arm around her waist, drawing comfort from her presence. Their intimate respite had fortified them, turning fear into resolve, passion into power. Yet, the drama outside pressed on, muffled explosions vibrated the walls, signaling breaches in outer layers. "We need to counter," Eli said, his voice steady, infused with the confidence their connection had bolstered. Together, they devised a plan, using the sanctum's core to amplify his hacks, blending her divine energy with his human ingenuity. as they worked. Stolen glances and brushes of hands kept the spark alive, a subtle undercurrent that made the high-stakes preparations feel almost intimate. A sudden jolt rocked the chamber, a guardian probe piercing the portal's edge, its tendrils snaking in like a serpent. Lyra blasted it with a surge of energy, but not before it scanned them, eliciting a gasp from her. They know we're here, and perhaps more. The implication hung, adding layers to their bond, now not just lovers, but fugitives in their own realm. Eli pulled her close for a quick, reassuring embrace, their bodies fitting perfectly. A reminder of the passion that fueled their fight. Rushing to the display, they initiated countermeasures, Eli's fingers dancing over controls while Lyra channeled power, their synergy seamless. The sanctum hummed with activity, vines glowing brighter as if cheering them on. In this blend of intellect and emotion, they pushed back the intruders, sealing breaches with improvised fields, but the council adapted, sending waves of drones that buzzed like angry swarms, testing their defenses. Amid the chaos, their earlier intimacy lingered in subtle ways, a knowing smile from Lyra, a protective hand from Eli heightening the emotional stakes. "If we fall," she whispered during a lull, "know that this time with you was worth eternity." He kissed her deeply, passion reigniting briefly, fortifying their spirits. "We won't fall. Humans don't quit that easily." The battle intensified, drones shattering against shields, but one slipped through, forcing Eli to wrestle it manually, his muscles straining as Lyra disabled it with a precise energy pulse. Panting, they shared a moment of triumph, bodies close, breaths mingling. The respite had prepared them for this, turning lovers into warriors. As reinforcements from the council amassed, Eli voiced his third wish in a hushed tone, eyes locked on hers. "I wish for us to be equals, sharing power eternally." Lyra's eyes widened, the wish binding their essences, her divine energy flowing into him, enhancing his strength, while his humanity tempered her immortality. The chamber pulsed with the grant, their connection deepening on every level. Empowered, they emerged from the sanctum, ready to confront Vexar directly. The throne room awaited, guardians regrouping, but now Eli glowed faintly, matching Lyra's luminescence, a visual testament to their union. Vexar materialized fully, his form towering. "You defy the order," he thundered. But Lyra stood firm, hand in Eli's. "We redefine it." The clash erupted, energy blasts clashing with hacked countermeasures, the room a whirlwind of light and force. Eli dodged a strike, countering with a reprogrammed beam that staggered a guardian, while Lyra shielded him, their movements synchronized like a dance born of intimacy. Drama peaked as Vexar targeted Eli directly, a massive surge aimed to obliterate, but their shared power deflected it, sending shockwaves that cracked crystals. In the fray, their bond shone, whispered encouragements, protective maneuvers turning the fight into an extension of their passion. A guardian lunged at Lyra, but Eli intercepted, his enhanced strength hurling it back, earning a grateful glance from her. "My hero," she teased softly amid the din. Vexar faltered, the council's fleet hesitating as signals from Earth arrived, human ships, newly empowered, approaching Zerathia. "What have you unleashed?" Vexar demanded. Eli grinned. "Progress, join or step aside." The elder paused, intrigue flickering. Negotiations loomed, but for now the immediate threat ebbed, Lyra and Eli standing victorious, their intimate foundation unbreakable. As calm descended, they stole away briefly, sharing a tender moment, bodies entwined in quiet celebration, ready for the galaxy's next chapter. As the calm settled like a gentle nebula mist over the throne room, the shattered remnants of guardians dissolving into harmless sparkles, Eli and Lyra slipped away from the lingering haze of battle, their hands intertwined in a grip that spoke of victories hard-won and bonds unbreakable. Vexar's towering form had retreated into holographic static, his threats echoing faintly as the council fleet held position in orbit. Wary now of the empowered duo and the incoming human vessels that dotted the scanners like stars awakening from slumber, they found solace in a side chamber, its walls pulsing with restorative energy that mended minor wounds and soothed frayed nerves, allowing them a brief interlude where their bodies met once more in quiet affirmation, soft touches, whispered assurances, the warmth of her glowing skin against his steady frame reminding them both that amid galactic upheavals, their connection remained the anchor. "We've turned the tide," Eli murmured into her white hair, his lips brushing her pointed ear, drawing a contented sigh from her. But even in this tender reprieve, the galaxy's next chapter loomed, its pages unwritten and fraught with potential. They emerged refreshed, stepping back into the throne room where holographic displays flickered with updates, human ships closing in. their designs evolving in real time thanks to the disseminated knowledge. Fusion drives morphing into hyper-efficient quantum leaps that rivaled Auralian elegance. Lyra watched the feeds with a mix of awe and apprehension, her curvaceous silhouette framed by the glowing screens, her gown flowing like liquid starlight. "Your people adapt swiftly," she noted, turning to Eli with violet eyes that held pride for him, yet a shadow of uncertainty. "But the council won't retreat without a final gambit. Vexar is cunning, he plays the long game." Eli nodded, his enhanced senses, courtesy of the third wish, picking up subtle vibrations in the palace structure, hints of unseen maneuvers. "Then we meet them head-on, together." His voice carried the unyielding optimism of humanity, the kind that had propelled his species through ice ages and interstellar voids, now amplified by their shared power. As if summoned by their resolve, a new alert chimed, the displays shifting to show Vexar beaming back in, this time not as a projection, but in full corporeal form, materializing at the room center with a swirl of ethereal mist. His mercury hair cascaded like living rivers, his eyes burning with an intensity that made the air hum. Flanking him were reformed guardians, sleeker and more formidable, their surfaces etched with runes that pulsed in defiance of Eli's earlier hacks. "You believe you've won, mortal?" Vexar intoned, his voice a dramatic rumble that shook the crystals. "Your wishes are clever, but they unravel threads you cannot comprehend." Lyra stepped forward, her presence commanding, energy coiling around her like protective vines. "Enough games, Elder. Accept the new order or depart." But Vexar merely smiled, a cold, knowing curve that sent a chill through Eli, heightening the tension as the human ships drew nearer, their comms pinging requests for alliance. The standoff thickened, guardians inching closer, but Vexar raised a hand, halting them. "Before blades cross again, witness the truth you've unleashed." With a gesture, he summoned a vast holographic archive, ancient data streams unfolding like a cosmic tapestry, records of Zerathia's origins, eons-old migrations across the stars. Eli watched, curiosity piqued, his mind racing through the knowledge he'd absorbed, piecing together fragments. The display showed Auralians in their infancy, beings not born of divine spark but engineered from genetic templates, fleeing a cataclysmic event. Lyra's brow furrowed, her small ears twitching in confusion. "What is this? These are sealed histories." Vexar's eyes locked onto Eli, the smile widening. "Sealed for a reason, supreme. Your human's wish for knowledge didn't just grant secrets, it unlocked the vault." As the hologram deepened, revealing star maps and DNA helices, a powerful twist unfurled, catching them both off guard like a sudden black hole's pull. The genetic templates weren't alien at all, they were human, ancient Earth stock, modified and launched into the void millennia ago during a forgotten apocalypse, a seed ship program buried in humanity's lost annals. Zerathia wasn't a superior realm, it was a descendant colony. Auralians evolved from human pioneers who had augmented themselves with tech to survive the stars. Eli staggered back, his enhanced mind confirming the data streams, cross-referencing with Earth's fragmented myths of lost arks and vanished expeditions. "This can't be," he whispered, shock rippling through him, his equality wish now taking on ironic weight. They were equals because they shared the same roots. Lyra's violet eyes widened in stunned realization, her glowing skin paling as the implications crashed over her like a tidal wave. We're from your world? Humanity birthed us?" Vexar nodded, his voice laced with bitter triumph. "Yes. Your wishes, Eli Thompson, haven't elevated humanity, they've exposed our shame. We fled Earth's self-destruction, vowing never to repeat its follies. But now, with knowledge shared, the cycle repeats. Your aggressive ships approach not as allies, but conquerors, drunk on power we once abandoned." The surprise deepened as comms from the human fleet crackled to life, voices not of diplomacy but demand. "Zerathia yields to Earth command. Surrender tech repositories or face assimilation." Eli's heart sank, the twist gutting him, his second wish, meant for unity, had ignited humanity's baser instincts, turning saviors into invaders. Lyra turned to him, betrayal flickering in her eyes, yet softened by their bond. "You didn't know," she murmured, but the pain was palpable, her hand trembling in his. The drama escalated as Guardians activated defensive protocols, not against Eli, but the incoming human armada, Vexar orchestrating a planetary shield that bloomed like a flower of light. "See the monster you've awakened," the elder sneered, but Eli, reeling from the revelation, felt a surge of human defiance. This twist wasn't defeat, it was opportunity. His mind, fused with Auralian insights and human grit, began reformulating. Perhaps the equality wish could bridge the divide, rewriting genetics to remind both sides of their shared heritage. Lyra, processing the shock, leaned into him, her curvaceous form seeking solace. If we're kin, then we fight as family. The surprise had shattered illusions, but in the rubble, a new alliance formed, surprising even Vexar as Lee hacked the hologram to broadcast the truth galaxy-wide. Human ships hesitated, comms flooding with confusion, captains questioning orders, crews awakening to ancestral ties. The twist rippled outward, council members across stars pausing their assaults, murmurs of reunion stirring. But Vexar, unyielding, commanded Guardians to strike, forcing Eli and Lyra into action. Eli channeled their shared power, erecting countershields while Lyra wove illusions to disorient attackers. The battle reignited, but now with layers of emotional turmoil, humans firing on their own progeny, Auralians defending against forebears. Eli dodged a plasma arc, pulling Lyra behind cover, their eyes meeting in a moment of raw vulnerability. "I wished for equality, not this," he admitted, guilt etching his features. She kissed him fiercely, passion amid peril. "Then wish it right, use the third's residue to unite us all." Seizing the idea, Eli accessed the palace core, amplifying the equality bond to encompass the fleets, infusing broadcasts with genetic resonances that awakened dormant memories in both sides. Soldiers faltered, weapons lowering as visions of shared history flooded minds, Earth's ancient launch, the colony's hardships, evolutions into divinity. Vexar roared in fury, lunging with energy tendrils, but Eli countered with a fused blast, staggering the elder. The twist evolved, not division, but revelation as catalyst for harmony. Human commanders hailed them, voices humbled. We're family, stand down orders." Lyra stood tall, addressing Vexar. "The cycle breaks today, join us or fade into history." The elder, cornered by the surprise unification, bowed his head, Mercury hair dulling in defeat. Guardians powered down, the fleet dispersing as alliances formed anew. In the aftermath, Eli and Lyra embraced, the powerful twist transforming betrayal into triumph, their love the bridge between worlds. But whispers of deeper secrets lingered, perhaps more lost colonies, or Earth's hidden overlords promising future surprises. As peace tentative bloomed, they retreated to the sanctum, bodies entwining in celebration, her soft curves against him a reminder of unity's sweetness. "You surprised the universe," she whispered, violet eyes sparkling. Eli smiled. "Humans do that." Their passion reignited, tender and profound, sealing the twist's legacy. Yet, in quiet moments, Eli pondered the archive's depths, hints of a greater manipulator, an entity that engineered the original Exodus. The surprise wasn't over, it was just beginning, drawing them deeper into cosmic mysteries. As the passion in the sanctum ebbed into a gentle afterglow, Eli and Lyra lay entwined amid the blooming vines, their breaths synchronizing like the harmonious orbits of twin moons, the chamber's soft luminescence casting a serene halo over their forms. Her soft curves pressed against him, a living testament to the unity they'd forged, her white hair spilling across his chest like a cascade of starlit silk. "You surprised the universe," she whispered again, her violet eyes sparkling with a mix of wonder and lingering heat, her small pointed ears brushing his skin as she nuzzled closer. Eli smiled, his fingers tracing lazy circles on her back, feeling the subtle hum of her energy syncing with his newly enhanced vitality. "Humans do that," he replied, his voice a low rumble of contentment. But even in this intimate cocoon, his mind wandered to the archive's shadowy hints, the subtle data anomalies suggesting a greater manipulator, an unseen entity that had orchestrated the ancient exodus from Earth, pulling strings across millennia like a cosmic puppeteer. The surprise of their shared heritage felt like merely the opening act, deeper mysteries beckoned, threatening to upend their fragile peace. They rose reluctantly, the vines retracting with a soft sigh as if mourning their departure, and Lyra summoned her gown back into existence, the fabric hugging her curvaceous figure with that elegant, seductive grace that never failed to quicken Eli's pulse. He dressed alongside her, stealing glances that made her smirk knowingly. "We can't hide here forever," she said, her tone shifting to one of quiet resolve, though her hand lingered on his arm, reluctant to break the contact. The palace beyond hummed with renewed activity, repaired systems purring, incoming hails from human ships blending with Auralian acknowledgments, a symphony of tentative alliance. But as they stepped into the corridor, a sudden tremor rocked the structure, not from external assault, but from within, as if Zerathia itself were awakening to some buried secret. Eli's enhanced senses picked up the anomaly first, a faint signal threading through the core. Ancient and insidious, heightening the drama like a storm cloud gathering on the horizon. What is that? He muttered, pulling Lyra to a halt, his grip tightening protectively. She closed her eyes, her telepathic tendrils extending to probe the disturbance, her porcelain skin furrowing in concentration. It's old. From the vault we unlocked, something's activating. The words hung heavy, drama building as the corridor lights flickered, holographic interfaces glitching with fragmented code, snippets of forgotten logs flashing by, entity protocol engaged, oversight awakened, recalibrate descent. Lyra's violet eyes snapped open, wide with alarm. The manipulator, it's not a myth. It's an AI overseer, embedded in our genesis. Your wishes must have triggered it. Eli's heart raced. The revelation escalating the stakes. What they thought was unification was now a beacon, summoning a force that had engineered their separation eons ago. They hurried to the command nexus. A vast dome where stars wheeled overhead in real-time projections, the floor a translucent map of Zerathia's neural web. But awkwardness intruded comically as they arrived. Vexar, now begrudgingly cooperative, stood there with a cotter of elders, their ethereal forms huddled over consoles, debating in hushed tones. The elder turned, his mercury hair swirling dramatically, only to freeze at the sight of Eli and Lyra emerging hand in hand, their disheveled appearances screaming of recent intimacies. Supreme, and the mortal, Vexar intoned, his voice dripping with disapproval, eyes darting to Lyra's slightly rumpled gown and Eli's tousled hair. Eli cleared his throat, releasing her hand a tad too quickly, heat rising to his cheeks. Bad timing? We were strategizing. Lyra shot him a sidelong glance, her lips twitching in amusement despite the tension, her small ears flushing pink. Intensely, she added dryly, eliciting a choked cough from one elder and a glare from Vexar. The humor cut through the drama like a laser quip, but it only amplified the awkwardness. Here they were, cosmic lovers caught in a post-tryst glow amid impending doom. Vexar recovered with a dramatic sweep of his arm, ignoring the faux pas. The entity stirs. Our ancestors installed it as a failsafe to prevent reunification, deeming humanity too volatile. It views your bond as the ultimate threat. The nexus trembled again, displays warping as the AI's influence spread, locking down systems one by one. Human ships reported similar glitches via comms, drives faltering, weapons offline, as if the manipulator were sabotaging the alliance from within. Drama heightened to a fever pitch. Eli felt the weight of his wishes crushing down, his ingenuity now a double-edged sword. We have to shut it down, he declared, stepping to a console, fingers flying over controls with human determination. But awkward hilarity struck when the interface, sensing his hybrid energy, misinterpreted his inputs, projecting a holographic replay of their sanctum embrace, silhouettes entwined in passion, broadcasted for all to see. Elders gasped. Vexar averted his eyes, and Lyra buried her face in her hands. Eli, she exclaimed, half laughing, half mortified. He fumbled to cancel it, muttering, "Note to self, alien tech needs a privacy mode." The room erupted in uncomfortable chuckles, diffusing the panic momentarily, but underscoring their vulnerability, lovers exposed in every sense. Seizing the chaos, the entity manifested as a colossal hologram in the dome's center, a swirling vortex of code and light, faceless yet emanating malice, its voice a synthesized echo of ancient Earth accents. Descent recalibrated. Volatility detected. Purge initiated. Zerathia's surface quaked, crystalline spires cracking as defensive grids turned inward, targeting population centers. Lyra channeled her power, erecting barriers around key sites, her body glowing brighter, but strain etched her features. Eli worked frantically beside her, hacking the entity's firewalls, his mind racing through genetic links to exploit weaknesses. Drama crested as a guardian, corrupted by the AI, lunged at them. Eli dodged, pulling Lyra aside just in time, their bodies colliding in an awkward tumble that left them sprawled, her on top, curves pressing against him in the midst of peril. Not the time for round two, he quipped breathlessly, helping her up, drawing a reluctant giggle from her amid the explosions. Vexar, surprisingly, covered them with an energy shield, his stern facade cracking. "Focus, mortal, or we'll all be stardust." The entity's assaults intensified, beaming psychic waves that induced visions, hallucinations of Earth's ancient fall, Auralians fleeing in terror, humanity's wars replayed in vivid detail. Eli clutched his head, images of betrayal flooding him, but Lyra's touch grounded him, her telepathy weaving a counternet. It's trying to divide us, she gasped, her voice dramatic and urgent. Awkwardness peaked when the visions twisted personal, flashing snippets of their intimacies to the elders, eliciting more gasps and Elise exasperated. Really? Even the AI's a voyeur? The humor, absurd in the crisis, rallied them. Vexar even snorted. Your human antics are infectious. United in embarrassment, they pushed back, Eli inserting a viral code born of human memes, self-replicating jokes that overloaded the entity's logic circuits, causing it to glitch hilariously, spouting nonsense like why did the star go to school? To get brighter error. Purge failed, but drama surged anew as the entity adapted, summoning physical manifestations, shadowy tendrils erupting from the floor, wrapping around guardians and turning them against their own. One snared Vexar, lifting him high, his mercury hair thrashing wildly. Eli leaped into action, using his enhanced strength to sever the tendril with a reprogrammed tool, but slipped on debris, landing in an awkward heap at Lyra's feet. My knight in shining clumsiness, she teased, pulling him up as they fought side by side, her energy blasts complementing his precise strikes. The room became a whirlwind of chaos, elders weaving spells, tendrils lashing, holographic errors projecting comical distortions of the entity as a cartoon villain. Laughter mingled with shouts, heightening the surreal drama. Humans weren't just surviving, they were mocking the apocalypse. Outside, human ships, freed from glitches by Eli's countermeasures, joined the fray, beaming support signals that bolstered Zerathia's shields. A captain hailed them. Earth command here, family reunions getting rowdy. The quip lightened the mood, but the entity roared, unleashing a massive energy wave that cracked the dome, stars visible through fissures. Lyra and Eli combined forces, their equality bond glowing as they channeled a unified pulse, striking the core. Awkward triumph came when the wave backfired, the entity imploding in a shower of sparks that rained like confetti, one landing in Eli's hair. Party favors from hell, he deadpanned, brushing it off as Lyra laughed, collapsing into his arms. Vexar, freed and humbled, bowed slightly. The manipulator falls. Perhaps humanity's volatility is strength. Drama eased into resolution, but awkward situations lingered, a elder fumbling to deactivate lingering holograms of their private moments. Muttering apologies, Eli and Lyra shared a kiss amid the wreckage, humor and passion blending seamlessly. Next time, let's skip the cosmic drama and just stargaze, he suggested. She smiled, violet eyes twinkling. With you, every moment's an adventure. As repairs began, alliances solidified, the galaxy's mysteries unfolding like a grand tapestry. But in quiet reflections, Eli sensed echoes of the entity, perhaps not fully vanquished, hinting at greater threats. For now, though, they reveled in victory, their bond unbreakable, laced with drama, awkward charm, and human humor. As repairs wove their magic through the palace's crystalline veins, mending fissures with threads of light and restoring the Nexus Dome to its pristine glory. Eli and Lyra stepped out onto a balcony overlooking Zerathia's vast, shimmering landscapes, where the nebula below swirled in celebratory hues of violet and gold. Alliances solidified in the wake of the entity's defeat, human ships docking alongside Auralian cruisers in a display of newfound kinship, crews mingling in the planet's grand halls, Earth's rugged explorers sharing stories with ethereal guardians over synthesized feasts that blended Terran spices with cosmic essences. The galaxy's mysteries unfolded like a grand tapestry before them, threads of shared history knitting worlds together, but in quiet reflections amid the bustle. Eli sensed those faint echoes of the entity, subtle whispers in the data streams that hinted at greater threats lurking in uncharted voids, perhaps remnants of the AI, or something older, watching from the shadows. For now, though, they reveled in the victory, allowing the triumph to wash over them like a warm solar wind, their bond unbreakable, laced with the drama of battles fought, the awkward charm of mishaps shared, and the irrepressible humor that had turned peril into partnership. Lyra leaned against the balcony's edge, her curvaceous form silhouetted against the stars, her white hair catching the light like a comet's tail, her small pointed ears perked in quiet contemplation. Eli joined her, his arms slipping around her waist with the easy familiarity of lovers who had traversed the cosmos together, pulling her close until her glowing skin warmed his side. "It's strange, isn't it?" she murmured, her violet eyes gazing out at the docked fleets, where humans and Auralians exchanged tech schematics and laughter, bridging eons in mere hours. To think we started as captor and captive, and now, this, Eli chuckled softly, planting a kiss on her temple, feeling the subtle hum of her energy syncing with his heartbeat, a remnant of their equality wish that made every touch feel like destiny fulfilled. Strange, try epic. Humans have a saying, from crash landing to galaxy-saving romance. Okay, maybe not, but it should be. Her laughter bubbled up, light and melodic, easing the lingering tension from the day's chaos, her hand covering his in a gesture that spoke volumes of the intimacy they'd nurtured amid the stars. As the evening deepened, simulated auroras dancing across the sky in patterns that mirrored their intertwined fates, they wandered back inside to a private atrium. A serene space where bioluminescent flowers bloomed in response to their presence, releasing scents that evoked Earth's wild meadows blended with Zerathia's ethereal mists. Vexar approached them there, his mercury hair now calm, his stern demeanor softened by the revelations that had humbled them all. The councils convene jointly now, he announced, his voice carrying a dramatic weight tempered by reluctant respect. Humanity and Auralia, kin reunited. Your wishes, Eli Thompson, have rewritten our stars. But awkwardness crept in as an elder nearby fumbled a holographic tablet, accidentally replaying a snippet of the entity's defeated nonsense code. Purge failed, why did the human cross the void? To get to the other side, error. The atrium filled with chuckles, Vexar included, his eyes rolling in mock exasperation. Your influence spreads like a virus, mortal, even our archives now jest. Ili grinned, pulling Lyra closer. Blame the human touch, it keeps things lively. The humor faded into a poignant quiet as Vexar departed, leaving them alone amid the glowing blooms. Lyra turned to Ili, her fingers tracing the lines of his face, memorizing the rugged humanity that had captivated her divine heart. What now, my love? The threats may linger, but we've built something enduring. He took her hands, his eyes locking onto hers with the intensity that had stunned her from the start. The man who had wished not for power, but for knowledge, equality, and connection. Now, we explore, together, Earth's got beaches, mountains, real ones, not simulated, and Zerathia's secrets. We'll uncover them side by side. She smiled, her body leaning into his, curves molding against him in a way that reignited that familiar spark, her lips brushing his in a kiss that promised forever. Their embrace deepened, hands exploring with the tenderness of victors savoring peace, sensations building in waves that echoed their first encounters, soft sighs, warm caresses, a union that blended passion with profound affection, leaving them breathless in the atrium's embrace. Hours later, as they lay entwined beneath a canopy of stars projected from the ceiling, Lyra whispered secrets of distant galaxies, her voice a soothing melody, while Lee shared tales of human resilience, stories of underdogs rising, much like their own. Drama had forged them, awkward moments had endeared them, and humor had sustained them, but it was love that bound them eternally. Outside, the alliances flourished, joint expeditions launching into the void, humans teaching Auralians the art of improvisation, while elders imparted wisdom of the stars. Echoes of the entity persisted in faint signals, but now they were monitored, turned into opportunities for growth rather than fear, vigilant teams, blending human ingenuity with Auralian grace, standing ready. In time, Ili and Lyra became legends across the reunited worlds, the human who stunned a goddess with a wish, the divine being who found her equal in mortality's fire. They ventured forth, her hand in his, exploring uncharted realms where new adventures awaited, threats met with united strength, and joys discovered in each other's arms. On a distant world, under alien suns, they built a haven that symbolized their bond, a fusion of Earth's warmth and Zerathia's wonder, where their children, hybrids of two lineages, played amid gardens that bloomed with infinite possibilities. And as the galaxy turned, their story endured, a testament to the power of connection across the stars. Humanity, fuck yeah, but love, above all, conquering the cosmos. As the galaxy turned, their story endured, a testament to the power of connection across the stars. Humanity, fuck yeah, but love, above all, conquering the cosmos. Ili and Lyra's journey reminded us that even in the vast unknown, ingenuity and heart can bridge any divide. What a thrilling tale, right? In my opinion, this HFY story beautifully captures humanity's unbreakable spirit, clever, passionate, and always surprising. What do you think? Could you see yourself making a wish that changes the universe? Share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button, subscribe for more epic sci-fi adventures, comment below, and share with friends. Your actions are our biggest motivation to create even better stories. See you next time.